What's up, ladies and gentlemen? The name of the show is Politics on My Mind, and I'm the host, Troy Griffith. Let's get the show started. It's going to be a good one.
All of you know who I am.
Yo, what's poppin', ladies and gentlemen? You're tuned into Politics on My Mind. I am the host, Troy Griffith. This is episode 189. If you would like to listen to the podcast wherever you get your podcast, you can do so on SoundCloud, Google Play, TuneIn, iTunes, YouTube. Just go into that search bar, type in Politics on My Mind, hit that subscribe button. If you would like to follow the podcast on Twitter, you can do so at POMM Podcast. And once again, that's on Twitter, the Bluebird. Today is Monday, November 16, 2020, and welcome to the only political podcast for the hip hop generation. As always, I have to tell you about the website, politicsonmymind.com. That's politics with an S, politicsonmymind.com. And also, you can find the podcast on YouTube. Just go into YouTube, type in Politics on My Mind. And it seemed as though YouTube search engine is not like, Google's search engine where you just type in and it pulls up for you. But if you just go to YouTube and you just, type in the name of a previous podcast and, the entire word Politics on My Mind episode, whatever the episode is, because it doesn't seem, I tried it. I was like, why can't I find it myself or whatever? But that's how you can find it. It's on YouTube. Trust me, it is. You can find the link there. I believe you could probably even Google it. Let me try to do that myself and see if that's an option. Let me see. Politics on My Mind, YouTube. Let's see if that comes up. Nope, not even that. I guess I have to get it going a bunch of times for it to come up, but it's on YouTube. Trust me, it is. As always, this is an episode that ends in 9. So as you know, I always have to do the intro as to how I got started with the Polycast. Polycast. That could be a thing. Polycast. I just came up with something right there. Trademark that shit. That shit for free right there. So, Polycast, political podcast. I literally just invented something. Somebody's going to listen to this, invent that, come up with a whole website, steal it. It's all good. You know what I mean? We can't keep everything for ourselves. Sometimes we got to get jewels to our community. But look, so every episode that ends in 9, as you know, except for episode 179, I think I had a lot to talk about. I always have to tell you how I got involved in politics and, how I came to start the podcast. So I'm going to do that. For those of you who have heard it before, I'm going to try to do this in under 7 minutes. So 7 minutes out, starting right about now, you can skip. So I got the political bug around 2008, 2009, when then Senator Barack Obama was running for office. And obviously, as we know, he became the president of the United States, the 44th president. But around that time, I started to realize the impact, the power of politics, that here are people that are making decisions about our community, and a lot of them do not live in our community. And I mean that at a federal level, right? Because there are local elected officials, but I get the feeling like senators, right? A lot of them do not live in the communities they serve. They're from the state, but they're making decisions for local community members they're not from it. But nonetheless, got involved in politics. I think it was Anthony Brown. He was running for governor at the time. Fast forward to 2014. He was running for governor. So I was sitting back between 2009, 2014. I was sitting back listening to political radio on the policy side, not so much the gossipy, like the real nerd stuff, right? The real policy, getting policy. And I saw that Anthony Brown, who is the congressman in the 4th District of Maryland at that time, he was just running for governor, right? So I saw him, campaigning outside a train station here in Maryland, and I walked up to him and I said, how can someone get involved? How can a young man like myself get involved in politics? And he said, talk to one of my campaign volunteers. They'll take information. They'll tell you the website. I showed up, I started making some calls, felt what that bug was like, and I was like, this is cool. And I just so happened to end up working or volunteering on the board, Prince George's County Young Democrats. I was like VP of membership. It was pretty cool. It was a year, got to learn some stuff, how community stuff work. and I started liking that. Then fast forward about 17, 18, started working on another campaign. Then I worked on several other campaigns, knocking on doors, making phone calls, and I was like, that was cool. So between that time, it was right after working on right after working on Anthony Brown's campaign. It was that moment I was like, yo, I'm showing up to these events, I'm volunteering, and I'm seeing people in the room who look like me, but they don't talk like me, right? They don't walk like me, metaphorically. And I'm like, yo, you know what's missing? People like myself who, there's no uncle, there's no dad, there's no mom who was in politics and gave me the baton and was like, hey, son, this is the family business. This is what we do. I didn't volunteer or intern when I was in high school and in college. It was just something that I woke up one day, took a liking to, and I was like, I want to get into it. But I didn't see people from the environment where I'm from getting involved. So I was like, yo, I want to come up with something that could reach those people. And I thought about this podcast and I said, okay, I'm going to come up with a podcast. Came up with the podcast title, reached out to my childhood friend, still my brother to this day, and I said, yo, I want a podcast. This is the title of it. He came up with how it looks. You see that logo and all that stuff. Stanley Dufresne, he came up with that joint. And the rest, as they say, is history. Started the podcast in February 2016. A funny story about starting the podcast, though. It was February 2016. The Monday I was supposed to start recording, it was a snowstorm. And I got to an entire week. I think it was like 6 feet of snow or something like that. But, schools were shut down, libraries were shut down, and I would go to the library. That's why my first couple podcasts, you hear how it sounds, maybe like the first 2 or 3, I was making them at a library because they had a recording studio. So I bought myself a week because of the snowstorm, and I was scared. I was like just nervous, just anxious. And once again, my man, Stan, my brother, I should say, my brother, Stan, he was like, yo, you're supposed to be scared. Like when you're doing something that you want to do, that nervous feeling, that's a good thing. And I was like, oh, okay. Showed up at the library. I made or as you say in the hood, library, showed up at the library, made the podcast, and the rest is history. And here I am, 4 going into 5 years later. I'm still here. I was here for President Obama's administration. I'm still here. I'm here for the Biden's administration. That's going to be super cool. And that's the reason you have a podcast, and that's titled Politics on My Mind. And the difference that I came up with was I was like, yo, they're going to have a ton of podcasts. What's going to set you apart? And I said, that's going to be the only political podcast for the hip hop generation. And as they say, the rest is history. Boom. So look, by now you're probably wondering, I've never done this before. I've never done a part 2 to an episode that I can remember. As far as back, I believe as I've started the podcast, I've never done a part 2. But I said, you know what? I wanted to do a part 2 for a number of reasons, right? And I'll get into those reasons later on. And when I say later on, I'm going to talk about the coronavirus. So, just give me about 2 or 3 minutes and I'll let you know why I decided to come up with a part 2 to the last episode 188, as far as, we saved us. So just give me about 2-3 minutes. Let me talk about coronavirus. Ladies and gentlemen, I know it's tempting. We've spent about 9 months with this coronavirus situation, right? And through it, we had the worst leadership ever known to modern day history. And so it was not able to contain it. That leadership was not able to contain the coronavirus. So we're here. So as they say, you can't cry over spilled milk, and the spilled milk being the actual person who's the leader. He spilled milk, right? He's like the most evil person ever. But I'll get into that later. The coronavirus is real. It doesn't care about your financial being. It doesn't care about your political leaning. It doesn't care, who you are in terms of importance, right? Because we know rich people can get this, middle class people can get this, poor people can get it. But what we do know is this, that this virus does discriminate because we live in a country that discriminates, right? When it comes to healthcare and all that. So we know this virus affects Black, Latinos, and Native Americans at a greater proportion than any other race, right? So here's what I want to say to you. Take this serious. If you do not care about yourself, take it serious for your grandparents, your parents, right? Because we know when it comes to the elderly, they can be affected because, it's no secret. The older you get, your immune system is not the same. I don't know how many of you, when you were in, junior high school, you went to school sick. You don't even remember being sick as a kid much, do you? Right? But when you become an adult, you get the sniffles and you could barely get up to go to work, right? Just to put that in your head. But, as the older you get, you're in your 60s, your 70s, your 80s, this can be detrimental to the elderly, specifically if you fall into any of those categories I'm talking about. So here's the deal. Wear your mask. It's about to get serious. They're saying that now that we're about to go into winter, it's going to be, I'm quoting them here, it's going to be coronavirus hell. You understand? Wear your mask, wash your hands. And they're saying it's going to be this bad. The scientists are saying that because it's wintertime and we're about to spend a lot more time indoor. So we may want to invite family members over. We may want to invite friends over. You might have a cuddy buddy. When I lived in Georgia, shout out to Camouflage. He passed away. He was a rapper from Atlanta. But he was from Savannah, actually. It was like when I lived down in Georgia, that was one of the thing, my cuddy buddy, you know what I mean? And it's basically like your friends with benefits, but it was Georgia's version of cuddy buddy. I would say Atlanta, Atlanta and Savannah's version of cuddy buddy, because Camouflage had that song. Look it up, yo, cuddy buddy. But, you may have someone you want to come over to the crib. If they're not in your bubble, be mindful. Here's the thing. You may survive this. You may know somebody that survived it. But the long-term health effects is not worth it. So wear your mask, wash your hands, and we're coming up on Thanksgiving. And we got to be mindful of inviting large family members and being in the house. They're saying if you are going to be in small groups, if you're going to be in a family group, keep the windows open, keep the doors open to let that air come in. Do what's right. There's an end to this. We just have to wear our mask, do what's right, stay in our circles, and make sure that we are on top of this, because if we're not, we're going to find ourselves in a situation that we cannot come back from in a heartbeat. And I mean that in the sense is, the longer we take to get this right, the longer it is going to get right, if that makes sense. Wear a mask, wash your hands. That's it. That's my message. Coronavirus is real. That's it. That's my message. I can't say it enough. Wear your mask, wash your hands. And I think that song was Cut Friends. I said Cuddy Buddy. It's Cut Friends. So look, should I talk about like hip hop then go into the politics? I think I'm going to talk about hip hop then go into the politics. Look, here's the deal. I'm just smacking the mic all up together. So this past week, a lot happened, right? In terms of hip hop. I don't spend a lot of time talking about hip hop. It's something that within the past few months, I've stepped away from. I don't know why. It's just that I was so engaged and worried about this election that I was able to, just skip over it. But this is the only political podcast for the hip hop generation. You come here for the talk. You come here for the dialogue. Like, I don't sound like a regular political show that you probably see on TV or listen to on the radio, right? So drop some jewels. This past week, it was 24 years ago that Lil' Kim dropped Hardcore. Oh, man. Baby, it's a Big Mama thing. Like, she went off in that. Method Man, it was 26 years ago that he dropped Method Man to Cal, his debut album. I'm going to give you a little funny story about Method Man's album. My brother, shout out to my older brother, that dude took me to the record store and bought that album for me. That's a special dude, man. It was 24 years ago this month that Tupac dropped Machiavelli, and we all know that he passed away September 1996. So 24 months. Look, and it seemed to have been a deadly year for rappers, right? Recently, rapper King Von, young guy, Davon Bennett. He goes by the rap name King Von. Just last week he got killed. Another one, Mo 3. He's out of Texas. He goes by Mo 3. His real name is Melvin Noble. Rest in peace. Let me tell you something, man. One of the illest songs that Troy Ave, the rapper from East Flatbush, made was "The Streets Is a Myth." Like, I don't know if rappers listen to my shit. I don't know if this will get across to one of them. Yo, man, when you make it big, you got to move differently. If it's anything we should learn from Nipsey Hussle, Biggie Smalls, you got to move differently. I was listening to Drink Champs and Noriega, and he was talking to Jay Prince, and Jay Prince said he saw Biggie and Puff and was like, yo, man, y'all out here in LA, I don't think this shit is right. Like, it doesn't feel smooth. You got to move smooth. Once you make it big out there, man, like DMX said in that song, ribs is touching. Stop being greedy. Trying to give to the needy. That song was about I have not seeing people that have and taking it. You know what I mean? So stay safe out there. Y'all just trying to feed your families. Y'all just trying to make music and, take your family out the hood, as they say. So just stay safe. Look, Boosie's real name, Torrance Hatch, goes by the name Lil Boosie Badass, shot in the leg. One of the rappers from Buffalo, New York that I've been listening to heavy, this whole crew, Griselda Records, Benny the Butcher, Conway the Machine, Westside Gun, them dudes, they pen game is amazing. You know what I mean? Benny the Butcher, he was just shot down in Texas. Jeremy Penick goes by the name Benny the Butcher. He's a lyrical genius. Oh my God. Like, I can't remember the last time that a new rapper made me start a song over. Like, when I do my run and I'm listening to Benny the Butcher, Conway the Machine, Westside Gun, I gotta start. I run the songs on repeat. But so I just want to say this, that I'm still the only political podcast for the hip hop generation, and maybe I got away from it some because O'Shea Jackson, Ice Cube, Sean Puffy Combs, they were getting into it, but I'm still going to love hip hop. I'm still going to love the art of it. I'm not about to throw it away because you got two people that feel like how they understand how politics works because they're rich. That's not how it works. But, you got Kanye West, hugging a white supremacist in the White House saying that when he put on a hat, he feels like Superman. I'm not going to throw them away. I'm going to continue listening to hip hop because hip hop is what molded me. Hip hop is what hip hop taught me a lot, right? And some of you who are not hip hop heads may not understand that. I remember one time I had this discussion with a coworker, and she was like, "Yo, we was talking hip hop." She was like, "What have you learned listening to hip hop?" I said, "Hip hop taught me one thing: you never let another man put his hands on you." She was like, "What?" She wasn't expecting that answer because all the tough talking that goes on in hip hop, whether they about that life or not, the fact of the matter is this: they tell you that you don't let somebody else put their hands on you. You know what I mean? Man, you don't let no other man put his hands on you on some old, you gonna smack me type shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, so hip hop, and then, it's poetry, right? Rhythmic African poetry. I used to hear that growing up. Like, that's what rap stand for. I don't know if it's true, but this shit sounded true. You know what I mean? But, rest in peace to, rest in peace to Davon Bennett, a.k.a. King Von. Rest in peace to Melvin Noble, Mo 3, Torrance Hatch, Lil Boosie Badass, Jeremy Penick, Benny the Butcher. Wish you speedy recovery. It's been a tough one, man. All right, so let's get to the topic at hand, right? Check this out. So you see an episode, We Saved Us Part 2. And you're wondering, you're like, yo, you never did this before. I'm thinking, I'm not going to go back and look, but I feel like I've never done it before. I'm going to say I never done it before. But I'll say this, that the reason I did it again, because Part 2, I wasn't being honest. And I felt like I should have given myself some time, maybe another week before I did the podcast. And what I mean, like, I wasn't being honest, because I wasn't being honest with you that the fact how much this election affected me. And maybe it affected me because I was so, like, ingrained, like I was doing the work. I mean, I'll just give you an example. For the month of October, I was I'm not kidding. The entire month, every weekend, I was doing a get out the vote situation. I was going out with these two organizations, and I was, telling people about the census, having them fill out the census, volunteer work, right? I was registering people to vote, volunteer work. I was engaged. I was the entire time because I was like, yo, man, this means a lot. And when I say I wasn't being honest in the sense that how much this evil person affected me. And because I got up every day, listened to politics, I mean, I'm a political nerd to the point, like, I'm reading, I'm like listening. When I say people from my environment is I can't go back to my neighborhood and have a political conversations with the dudes I grew up with because it's not something they paying attention to. And I don't say that disrespectfully. I say that in the sense of I'll be there to inform them. I'll be there to educate them, right? So I may know, politically speaking here, I may know a little bit more than them, but people who are actually have a political job know way more than me. But I'm that medium. I'm that medium that could go back to my homies and be like, yo, man, we should vote because of this, because of that. You understand? So I say that to say this. Because I was so engaged, I wasn't honest with you the last time when I came on here and I pretended like shit was all sweet. I should have been honest and say that a Joe Biden win really, really put me at peace. I believe it was like it didn't really set in after I did the episode, right? So Joe Biden, the election was November 3rd, right? So the election is November 3rd. Joe Biden wins the election. I go out there, I volunteer. And, it was the following week, the following couple days. So that Monday, November 9th, I did the episode, right? And with that episode, Monday, November 9th, after that, I wake up Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, Friday morning. I'm like, yo, I feel so at fucking peace knowing that we're not going to wake up every fucking day and wonder, what tweet is this? What tweet went out? Right? And I'm backing it. I'm watching the news again this weekend. I'm watching the news during the week, the political news. And I'm like, yo, I'm not the only person that felt like this. You felt tense every day. You felt stressed because you had to see this evil motherfucker named Donald Trump every fucking day. Some bullshit. And I wasn't honest with y'all. And I should have said that on part 1. But it had to take me some time to think about it. It had to take me some time for it to come to my mind. And I was like, you know what? I got to share this with my audience. I got to tell the truth. And here's the thing. I may be wording it wrong to say that I got to tell the truth as if I was consciously not telling you. But that's the best way I could tell it, right? And I want to come out here and say, I'm having a part 2 so I could do this the correct way. I can come at this election the correct way and really talk about black people, how black people saved this election, how Latinos saved this election. I don't know why when I say Latinos, like I say black people, I don't say blacks people, but when I say Latino, I add an S, Latinos, right? But maybe because like conjugation thing, but okay, whatever. So, black people, Latino people, Native Americans, we saved this election. We did. We saved us, right? We saved this thing that caused democracy that we want to get better. But in the meantime, we saved ourselves because we know when we have someone we can work with in the White House that is not detrimental directly to us, we know it's better. I was watching Ari Melber on The Beat on MSNBC, and Fat Joe was speaking. And, Fat Joe said something that I remember I told you that, the Saturday after the election when Joe Biden was announced as the winner, I went to the White House. I went to Black Lives Matter Plaza right around there. And it wasn't a celebration. People was happy. You know what I mean? That this evil person was gone. I'm going to let you hear how Fat Joe described it. So here's Fat Joe on Ari Melber show, The Beat. Here's Fat Joe. Here goes.
It's me. When you see the people dancing in the streets, I've never seen that before. It felt like Gaddafi died or Saddam Hussein died. When you see these visuals of people dancing in the streets when dictators tumbled. And I've never seen nothing like that. I was very excited. I'm very happy for it. But the moves he's making are very frightening moves. And I know we trying to take the high road and trying to act like we don't see what's going on. But when you fire the heads of the Defense Department and you put your guys in there, now you're going to fire the FBI, the CIA. This is scary stuff. And I've been watching everybody, and nobody really wants to say that. But, we're pretty scared. If you want to know what the public is thinking, what the American citizens are really thinking, this is a very scary time. And we hoping this is just one big bluff.
So when I heard him say that, I thought to myself, I was like, yo, I'm not the only person thinking like this. Like, this Donald Trump was a fucking dictator in the making, right? And with Black, Latino, and Native American people, making the decision to show up in this election and save us, we skate by almost going on a dictatorship. I was watching this weekend, Sunday, I was watching, on PBS. I keep want to say the rise to fascism. Like the entire day, I kept saying to myself, don't say the rise, but say the actual title. It was Fascism in Europe. I watched this, and it was I feel like it was an hour long between the PBS infomercials telling you to buy DVDs and all that good stuff. I felt like it was an hour long, and I'm watching it and I'm saying to myself, how fucking similar does this sound? I never knew it before. I've heard people talk about Mussolini, and I told you I read the book, How Fascism Worked, right? But to actually see it and visualize it, I read it and I've talked about it multiple times. After I talked about that book, I was like, yo, Donald Trump is a fascist. I've talked about it on this podcast before, on Politics on My Mind. But to actually watch a documentary and see what we missed just by us showing up and vote, it showed the power. Right after Donald Trump had the coronavirus, he went up on the White House balcony and was like waving to people. Now, in that documentary on PBS, Fascism in Europe, it was what Mussolini used to do. It was a regular thing for Benito Mussolini. It was a regular thing for him to go on the balcony and have, sort of like a square of people. When I say a square, like look out on the balcony in this square, right? So, so he's looking over everyone and he's giving speeches, and he would do this thing with his face and put his arms to his side. It was theatrics, right? And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, who does this remind you of? It reminds you of Donald Trump, the stuff he did with his face, the actions and everything. And I was like, you know what? This man knew exactly what the fuck he's been doing the entire time. And Sarah Kendzior, like this, look her up, man. Sarah Kendzior, follow her. She's been talking about it, saying that it's a crime syndicate masquerading as a government, the entire Trump administration, right? Then they got to Hitler, and the similarities, which the parallels was just fucking mind blowing, y'all. And I'm being 100% with y'all here, that to see the parallels between Donald Trump and Mussolini, the way he was moving, I was like, this is not a coincidence. This is not all a coincidence. Mussolini was, talking about, the media, don't trust them, but pushing intellectuals to the side, right? And saying that it basically don't trust intellectuals. Like if you were an expert, don't trust you. So if you went to school for something, you were a scholar, he was demeaning these people. And who was doing that? Donald Trump. But here we are, here we are, and I wrote down attempts to tumble a democracy. And right below that, I talk about fascism in Europe. And I'm reading a book right now. So those are so I talked about fascism in Europe, what I saw on PBS, and, and I'm about to tell you about the book that I'm reading, Hitler's American Model. And once again, the parallel is just mind-blowing. You understand? To see in the early 1930s that as Germany was forming what we know, the heinous, the horrible things that were done to the Jews, they were looking at the United States and saying, that's a little too racist for me. But they, as we know, they took it to another level, right? So the evil, and some people may be listening to this and saying, wait, are you saying that how are you comparing Donald Trump to Hitler? Here's what I'm saying. We have to look at this. He put people on the, kids and families in the border, and we know children are dying. One woman came forward and said they're doing forced hysterectomies. Do we literally have to see people being killed right in front of our eyes in order to believe what's going on, the evil that this man has done and the evils that we didn't realize that we escaped? You understand? There's an article over at theroot.com. I'm trying to get it to load as I'm talking to you. I thought I had it loaded. But the title of the article is UN criticizes U.S. on police brutality, the death penalty, and more after Human Rights Review. Here's the thing. What this article is saying is by Zach Lindley. And this article is saying that the UN Human Rights Council examination of the U.S. since 2015, dozens of delegations took to the floor and voiced their concerns about how human rights are handled in the nation many Americans swear to white Jesus is unequivocally the greatest country in the world. Activists with the ACLU said the review by the UNHRC heavily criticized the Trump administration policies and urged the incoming Biden administration to usher in reforms. Jamel Dakwar, director of the Human Rights Program, the ACLU, spoke about the review during a news briefing. Here's the thing. He goes on to say, this is the last thing I'll read. What we saw today was unsurprising condemnation by many countries around the world of the United States human rights record, Dakwar said. Here's the thing. These things do not have to happen, right, to the point of you see it where what Hitler was doing, how Mussolini was moving, how you kill an elephant one bite at a time. That's what the United States have learned from other countries. You just don't go in, jump in and do it. So we got to put this man on our radar for the rest of our lives and say he should never be able to be emulated ever again. He's an evil motherfucker. He knew he was an evil motherfucker. And the 72 million people who voted for him, they condone that shit. And they're telling us we have to find a way to get along with them. These people stood by, saw this happening, saw the way he was moving and said this was okay. Why would I be comrades with them? Why would I curry favor with them? And I went through this last week. Joe Biden has a 5 million spread on Donald Trump. Between Hillary Clinton, Gary Johnson, Jill Stein, Evan McMullin, between those four candidates, Donald Trump, in terms of the popular vote, they voted for Hillary Clinton. So here's what I'm saying. Donald Trump got, call it 62 million votes. Between Hillary Clinton, Gary Johnson, Jill Stein, and Evan McMullin, they received somewhere upwards of 6 million votes. Where was the cry there? And not to repeat myself from the last episode, but when you hear them say, what about those 72 other million people that voted for Donald Trump? They're really saying, don't forget about racist white America. Don't forget about the racist people that voted for Donald Trump or the people who condone racism. Let's do that. That's what they're saying to you. Don't forget about the people who condone racism of Black, Latino, and Native Americans. Don't forget about them. Let's cuddle them. That's not the way we should be going. That's not the way we want to go, right? And I'm going to tell you this. You have to be fair in this sense that Donald Trump, President Barack Obama gave an interview on 60 Minutes and he said, I won't blame Donald Trump as one person. I won't blame social media as one person that caused this entire situation to occur. It's and these are my words, it's a domino effect, right? And I'm going to go down the line. They have Richard Nixon on tape committing crimes. On tape. He got to pardon himself, and really there was no repercussions, no consequences, nothing. Go back to the Busta Rhymes saying where every choice has an invoice, right? And the choices that Richard Nixon made, there was no invoice for it. No one made him pay for what he did, either at the state level or civic, right? Civilly, right? No one sued him in civil court or anything. Criminal court or civil court, nothing happened. You had Ronald Reagan came along, and Ronald Reagan, the Iran-Contra, the Attorney General of the Department of Justice right now, right? You have George H.W. Bush coming along. The Attorney General right now, he helped pardon people in that, right? In I believe it was the George H.W. Bush. I may be messing up my Bushes. Right? So that Attorney General was involved in all that crookedness that took place. Once again, nothing happened. Alberto Gonzalez, one of the, I believe he was the Attorney General under George W. Bush. He fired multiple prosecutors and nothing happened to him. So here comes Donald Trump, and to be fair, we'll do Democratic presidents as well. You have Bill Clinton, who lied about what he did. It was his business, all that good stuff, right? That was his personal business. But the minute he chose to lie on the oath was when shit went left. He got impeached in the House. The Senate didn't convict him. But the point I'm trying to make is, if you have presidents continuously bucking the norm, this past Sunday in the Washington Post magazine, they talked about all the norms that Donald Trump didn't follow, right? Norms, because they weren't laws. It was certain things president did. And one of them was like he not creating a blind trust, him not showing his taxes. But you have presidents upon presidents. They called Obama no drama Obama. There were no indictments in the Obama administration because President Obama knew, I got to run a tight ship. They're looking at me, I'm black. They're looking at my family, I'm black. But when you allow these past presidents to get away with what they get away with, comes Donald Trump. And he's like, I can do whatever I want. Nobody will ever check me. There's nobody that's going to do me anything. My attorney general, he got my back. He's not going to prosecute me because there's a memo in the Department of Justice that said you can't prosecute a sitting president. All that happens. And everything I've ever known about government, where in high school I learned there were checks and balances, all that went out the window because the Democratic Party wasn't in control of the House and the Senate. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think even if they were, they would never would have chose to convict him and have him removed from office, because they play this political game. And I hope they see with him is dangerous. So I told you about Mussolini. I told you about fascism in Europe. I told you about Hitler. And please be very, very clear. It's very parallel. It's a parallel situation. The theatrics of Donald Trump, the way he talked about black people, Native Americans, Latinos, the way he was, damn near concentration camps at the border. Like, this is all real. Do not look past this. This is a thing. And another thing I wanted to do while I'm here, I've been waiting 4 years to say this while I'm at it. Fuck Ray Lewis. Fuck Kanye West. Fuck Steve Harvey. Fuck Jim Brown 2 times because he went to the White House twice. He met with Donald Trump twice when he first got elected in January 2017, and he went to the White House with Kanye West. Fuck all of them. Because you know why? They put themselves before the black community. And you cannot find another group of people that will side with people who are actively fighting for the destruction of their community, right? And I'm just going to say that. You can't find a small group of people that would be like one person or one system is definitely trying to, fucking bring harm to their community, and they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna go along with this. It doesn't happen. I'm not gonna sit here and bring up some other ethnic group or some other race. No. I'm gonna just put a blanket statement, right? The fact that these people feel Steve Harvey, he was going to talk about housing. What the fuck? You do Family Feud and you crack fucking corny jokes with your fucking baggy ass suits, bro, with fake mustache. Like, sit the fuck down. You know what I mean? Ray Lewis with that fucking corny ass dance, and get the fuck out of here, man. Jim Brown, you destroyed your legacy. Fuck Ray Lewis, fuck Kanye West, fuck Steve Harvey, fuck Jim Brown twice. And that's all I got to say about that. Moving on to the next thing. And one of the things that, because I wasn't honest, I wasn't able to spend enough time on the fact that Senator Kamala Harris, a black woman, is now the vice president-elect of the United States. A black woman will be in the White House. I want you to understand that black women from South Carolina showed up, black people from South Carolina showed up in that primary and elected, this ticket. It's because of them. It's because of the black people in South Carolina we were able to have this ticket, this monumental moment in history where a black woman will be in the White House, right? Let's not forget, her father's Jamaican, her mother's from India, and all I could think about is rap when Biggie said, my mom's mixed me with Jamaican rum or whiskey, you know what I mean? So it's just, powerful moment. She's part of a sorority, right? The AKAs. She went to a historically black community, historically black college and university, Howard University, prestigious, like beyond, a little bit of flack. Like when it comes to HBCUs, people always talk about, they always mention, the top ones, but there's so many other, but I heard a great statement about HBCUs. There's only one HBCU. It's just in different places. And I was like, I like that, right? There's only one HBCU, but they're in different places. Meaning, if you went to HBCU, you really should be different, bigging one up harder than the other. We're all one. Remember what I said, right? If we're going to win this, this black liberation thing, we have to think ourselves of one. So whether you went to Howard University, Bowie State, Morris Brown, right? I went to HBCU. Which one? It doesn't matter. I went to HBCU. That's how we should be looking at that. So I didn't go to HBCU, I should say. But right, like we have to understand that we're all in this together. And the fact that, Kamala Harris went to the HBCU, all HBCUs will have a different look. So monumental moment, that a black woman will be in the White House. One of my former coworkers, I was talking to her one day, right? And she was like, I can't remember but the context of the conversation in full, but I believe she was like, what they gonna do? It's a black woman in the White House. I remember pausing and thinking to myself, like, what does that have to do with anything, right? And then she said, she's a black woman in the White House. It was the most hilarious thing. I'm not even gonna lie to you, but it was pretty cool. Pretty cool situation. A black woman is about to be in the White House, and I don't think we can dismiss that, but I just wanted to spend a lot of time talking about that. And I had this clip that I wanted to play, but I couldn't find it. It was one of my pinned tweets on the podcast on Twitter, POMM podcast, and that's on Twitter. And it was basically talking about, how this caller on one of the political shows I listened to, and she said, Joe Biden is the bridge. And that's what it is. Some people are going to sit here and try to be like, you think Joe Biden is different? He's a bridge. How we get there? He is... Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said he will be a very understanding to the activism. When you ask him to get stuff done, he's going to listen versus someone who is a fascist in training who couldn't care less about what your needs or what your wants are. So that's that. And for anybody that want to challenge me on a fascism thing, first go look at it, study it, read it, learn about it, then come back to me. Or just go read about people who are scholars at this, because I had the epiphany this week. I'm reading the book, and just so happened PBS shows Fascism in Europe documentary. I was like, oh shit, mind blown. This dude is a fascist. And what he's doing right now, where he's playing with the election situation, and I got to say, President-elect Joe Biden isn't helping it by downplaying it. This man is really trying to be a dictator, and he's testing the waters to see, like, yo, let me see if I say the election is rigged, if I can sit in here for another 4 years, right? And I remember there was a tweet back from, I think it was like October. I said that. I was like, yo, where he was like, yo, we should go for 4 years, and and I should get another 4 years because the first 4 didn't count. He was talking about like being in the office for 3 terms, right? And it's funny, the book I'm reading, Hitler's American Model, or is it America's Hitler Model? So I have it backwards. I'll get it for you right now. Where it said, at the time in the mid 1900s, Germany, Hitler, they were looking at the United States, and particularly Franklin Delano Roosevelt. They were looking at him and be like, wow, look what he's doing. He has 3 terms, right? And I was like, yo, once again, blown back. And the title of the book is Hitler's American Model, the United States and the Making of Nazi Race Law. This book is very careful to say that how they're not saying that Hitler and the Nazis looked at the United States race law and said, oh, we're going to do that. But it was an influence, right? Being that America was a growing power at that time. And once again, I'm like the first 50 pages in, I may learn some stuff. So, but the basic thing of it is that this man is working his way up. And once again, I talked about past presidents, and a lot of people, just as I did earlier, start out with Richard Nixon. But this goes on and on and on and on, right? This is the beginning of times. You have Andrew Johnson with the Trail of Tears that damn near tried to, eliminate Native Americans. What happened to him? Nothing, right? Whether it's 3-4 presidents down the line, never condemn him. To this day, as I don't know, I may have to go back in history and look. Has anyone ever condemned Andrew Johnson for what he did? Right? So it's things like those that we need to think about, that we need to make sure that this never happens again in our history, because the next person that tries to do what Donald Trump did may just be successful. They may able to say the racist part quietly, be crooked quietly, and get what they need to be done quietly, right? I said Andrew Johnson. It was actually Andrew Jackson. Excuse me. Get what they need to be done quietly, right? So we have to take heed, make sure this never happens again. But there's some bright spots going on, and I'm gonna tell you about the bright spots. It's not all dark and gloom. I talked about how we saved us, right? And Joe Biden, one of the things he said, that he wanted his administration to look like America, right? He wanted his administration to look like the United States. So that means, at his, and this is from 19thnews.org, Biden's transition team brings in diverse coalition of experts, at least half of whom are women. And this is from the article, of the 500 members, more than half are women. And according to a press release from the Biden camp, around 40% represent communities of color, historically underrepresented in the federal government, including people of color, people who identified as LGBTQ+, and people with disabilities. And Joe Biden continuously said that he wants his administration, now his transition team, to look like America. And in his victory speech, he thanked gay, transgender, Latino, Asian, Native, and Black Americans for helping him get reelected, because he knew who showed up to elect him, to save us. And when I say us, it's not the United States. No, we want the person in there that's not going to harm us. So there are some goods coming out of this. There are some definite good goods coming out of this. You have Politico had an article about who's going to be the press secretary. Frankly, Simone Sanders, the young woman, is just remarkable. She knows her style. I mean this in the most respectful way. She could be a rapper, right? Like she could definitely be a femc. Like she gets asked the questions. She knows how to break it down. She starts top, middle, bottom. Boom, you got your answer. She has an answer for every single thing. And I feel like she's the person that needs to be that press secretary. There was someone else in the running, but Simone Sanders, for the first time, I know she joined Joe Biden's campaign after leaving Bernie Sanders. After being on Bernie Sanders' campaign in 2016, she jumped over to Joe Biden's campaign. From the earliest days, I've heard her express that she wants that press secretary. And not only will she be the press secretary, right? She will be also making history as the first black woman to hold that seat, press secretary, right? And we have to understand that that's another important milestone, because the minute she gets in, it opens the doors for other people. And it's only right. And, I'm going to run down a little history here and say, look, I was about to say she was the first woman, but you have Sarah Sanders, who used to lie through her teeth, Stephanie Grisham, who never really did any press conferences, Dana Perino, I believe she was on the George W. Bush. Yep, boop, got that right. Didn't even have to look. But so far, there's only been 4 women as press secretary, none of them black. So this will be the perfect opportunity for Simone Sanders to hold that. There's only been about 34 press secretaries. I want to believe that Donald Trump has had the most. Let me see. No, it doesn't look like it. I think it looks like Harry Truman, Bill Clinton, and then Donald Trump. But so here's the thing, right? So there's stuff coming out of this. They're talking about Bernie Sanders, Labor Secretary. I think that would be cool, because here's why. If Bernie Sanders, the Labor Secretary, he's been pushing for a $15 minimum wage forever. And, Bernie Sanders has been talking about workers forever. Like, that's part of his model. He wants worker equality. He knows that the working class people, they know that, saying that, don't say that word, right? But I mentioned work class. I didn't say, but don't say working class. But he knows that he wants poor and middle class people to climb the ladder financially, economically. So him as the labor secretary, maybe we'll see a $15 minimum wage, because he can push that. He's a labor secretary, right? You also have Elizabeth Warren, which I can't see her going into any other position outside of the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is an agency she started. A little history about that. President Barack Obama wanted to appoint her as the head of the agency, but told her, hey, you can't say anything for a year, because I'm going to, I have to work with this Republican senators to get you appointed. And she said, no, I'm not going to do that, because if I stay quiet, I can't speak on behalf of the people. So we have to know. I want you to know there's some brightness coming out of this. You still have the attorney general that he has to appoint, head of the State Department, FDA, HHS. There's so many cabinet positions. Stay tuned this week right here, the week of November 16th. He will be talking about, speaking about who his list is, his cabinet positions. All that is going to be coming out. And I just wanted to mention that to y'all, where, sometimes where there's gloom, there's a sunny day. So it's not all bad. It's not at all. And as the coming weeks come in, Joe Biden is really trying to transition over, but you have a wannabe dictator that's sitting there going through this. And we know that this is according to yahoo.com. Senate Republicans unveil $1.4 trillion spending bill to avoid a government shutdown next month. But Democrats are blasting its lack of coronavirus relief fund. And what this is basically saying, as we know, come December 11th, the federal government could possibly shut down again, because they need funding. The government, they extended it to when they did it at the end of the fiscal year, September 30th, they extended it to about December 11th. But now it's time to talk about it again. And it's in this period, if you remember, if you were, following the news during the financial crisis, Barack Obama, although he was running for president, when he won, when he became, look, and this is a history lesson for today, where although he became the president-elect in 2008, George W. Bush worked with him and other senators because he was coming into the White House and they got a bill passed for the American people, right? Because it was a financial crisis. Some can argue most of that money went to wealthy people. A lot of people will argue. But now that you have a government shutdown, you have president-elect and vice president-elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris respectively, this is where they can negotiate with senators and, you know, the current president, but he won't because he's an evil motherfucker. He doesn't care about anyone. People say, oh, he doesn't care about anyone but him damn self. I don't even think he cares about himself because he's a dictator. That dude is just, man, y'all don't know how fucking happy this dude is gone. You know, just, yo, there are people who saw this man and got triggered. Like, and I said it before, think about your kids got taken from you. You have to turn the news and see this man because your kids are separated from you because they crossed the border looking for asylum and they were separated. So now every time you see the man that's the head of the government responsible for this separation, it triggered you. It's like being a victim of a crime and seeing the perpetrator. It triggers you. This man is horrible. And a little sidebar, Larry Hogan, the governor of Maryland, he moves like he's nice. He's dangerous as well. We got to watch that dude. He may try to run for senator or president. And as I have breath in my body, my activism game is going to step up. But on the normal circumstances, the sitting president would allow the president-elect to have the negotiations. So we may have to stay tuned. So you may be saying, oh, this doesn't affect me. I'm not a federal employee. But when the government shut down, you learn pretty quick things that you need because the federal government is at the top of the food chain. What's the next thing? State governments, right? City governments, local municipal governments, right? So it could be a trickle-down effect. If the federal government shut down, that's an economic strain. So keep that on your radar. Hopefully we're able to do this. The Senate Republicans, they unveiled a bill to keep the government funded through September 2021. That sounds good, but it's what they're funding and what they're not funding can be a topic of discussion. And so here you have Vermont Senator Patrick Leahy. Everybody knows Senator Bernie Sanders because he's the most popular one, but there's a quiet old dude out there in Vermont, Patrick Leahy. He said, quote, "This country is headed for a deadly winter, and it's long past time for us to provide the resources the country needs to get this virus under control and our economy back together. These bills do not provide any such relief." There you go, right? So they could pass a bill, but, you know, to September 21, but what does it do? You have Senator Patty Murray of Washington. She said, it's one-sided, inadequate legislation. There you go. So those are the things that's happening. And how do you get to a point where you can get a government that runs for you? I'm going to tell you how. You have in Georgia, there's a runoff. And the runoff is between Raphael Warnock, Kelly Loeffler on one side, because there's 2 senator seats up there, which is, you know, it's funny that that's happening, but that's because Kelly Loeffler, she never won an election. She was appointed. And you have John Ossoff and David Perdue. So now Raphael Warnock is the Democratic senator running to replace Kelly Loeffler as the appointed senator. You have Raphael Warnock. He's, as I said, a candidate for the United States Senate. This is according to Essence.com. Yo, am I versatile today? Am I? I played your Fat Joe clip, MSNBC. Said something about the root, article about the root. Talked about an article over at yahoo.com. Holla at me. How you get your agenda moved through if you're an activist trying to get Joe Biden to do the job? You elect these 2 Democratic senators from Florida so the Democratic Party can have the majority. So you get 2 senators in. The Democratic Party will have 50 senators because there's 100 in the Senate, 100 senators, 435 members of the House. So you have these two senators that could put the Democratic Party at 50. There will be 50 Democrats, 50 Republicans. How do you get the majority? The vice president is the tiebreaker. And who may she be? Kamala Harris. Anytime the Democrats want to pass a bill and they only have a 50 majority, she'll come in and be the tiebreaker. You get this done by electing Reverend Raphael Warnock. He went to Morehouse. He earned his PhD and was ordained in ministry. And 15 years ago, he was chosen to serve as the senior pastor at the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. I'll say that again. The senior pastor at the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. Why does that sound familiar? Because that's where the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a young pastor, right? You elect this guy. Go to his website. Donate to Fair Fight Georgia. If it's $1, I've worked on the campaigns, even $1. 200 people give $1. Guess what? Guess how much money they got? Come quick. $200, right? That's how you do that. John Ossoff, I followed his first race where he ran in Georgia. I believe it was the 6th district, if I'm not mistaken. So John Ossoff, he's running against David Perdue. You elect Raphael Warnock, you elect John Ossoff, you get your majority. In 2016, John Ossoff was the Democratic nominee in the special election for Georgia's, yep, I was right, his 6th district, right? And he was in that seat because Tom Price, you don't even know who that is, right? Because he ended up going to work for the White House, one of the cabinet positions, and he did some illegal shit, unethical shit. Once again, here's the problem. He did something unethical and there was nothing for him. He got away scot-free. He's probably some consultant at some firm right now making hundreds of thousands of dollars. You have to hold these people accountable, whether it's criminal or civil. They have to be held accountable because otherwise this continues, and I hope this change. In any event, Tom Price went on to work in Trump's administration. He did something unethical. The seat became open. Once he left to go work for the administration, John Ossoff ran for that seat. He was unsuccessful, right? They spend buku's money on that. Buku's, like Jamaicans, buka money, yo, right? He was able to get people to turn out, but he didn't win the election. And he got everyone's endorsement for that seat. John Lewis, Congressman Hank Johnson, the late, great John Lewis. Hank Johnson is the current congressman, I believe, for Georgia's 5th district. You have Georgia State Legislative. He's a Georgia State Legislative Black Caucus Chair rep. Georgia State Legislative Black Caucus Chair rep Karen Bennett and dozens of other leaders from around Georgia has endorsed John Ossoff. This is how you get the job done. You elect these two people. They get the job done. They come in there, and then you can get your agenda pushed, right? That's how that happened. Three things I want to mention. No, it's two. So this is according to Fox 5 DC, Washington, D.C. Fox 5 Washington, D.C. Montgomery County bill will eliminate school resource officers. This article is by Stephanie Ramirez. And what this is, I read that article, but I didn't like that article too much. I like the article better over at BethesdaMagazine.com, where you have a council member, Will Jawanda, and Hans Rammer, where they're pushing this bill to get school resource officers out of schools in Montgomery County. And if you remember the episode with PG Changemakers and the episode with Nina Jackson and Drake Smith, we talked about Drake Smith. We talked about this, and I said, call in what you want, school resource officers, if they got a gun and a badge of the police, right? But these two council members have said it's time for them to go, and they're going to vote on the next session. They're going to vote to start removing them from the schools. Keep our children safe. If you have people who say, "Oh, I care about abortion," right? They're always screaming that, right? Then guess what? Black, Latino, and Native Americans can say, we pay taxes, as I mentioned with Nina Jackson and Drake Smith. We pay taxes, and we do not want police officers harassing our children in school, harassing our children in schools, brutalizing our children, arresting our children at a higher rate than any other, young black girls that are arrested at a higher rate than any other race. That's problematic. That's a good thing that's coming out. That's why I say local elections matter, y'all. It's very important, right? So there's that. And finally, the final thing, I know I mentioned rapper at the top of the show. I end with this because I'm the only political podcast for the hip hop generation. Excuse me. This is the only political podcast for the hip hop generation. And this is according to Billboard.com. Do y'all love, I got to say, one of my best episodes, right? Because I came through and, weight is off my shoulder. I'm being honest with y'all. And, I almost want to apologize because I didn't realize how much this evil man in the White House was, just the negativity and the evilness and the parallels between how close we were to losing a democracy and becoming a dictatorship. But I digress. According to Billboard.com, rapper Sean Barrow is elected to Belize's House of Representatives. Moses Barrow, otherwise known as Sean, that's right, the rapper from East Flatbush, Brooklyn. Booker. That's my hood. That's where I grew up, right? He ran and won his election to be in the House of Representatives. So it's similar to like he's a congressman then in Belize. In Mesopotamia, Belize City, he is now in the House of Representatives. And this is an amazing quote. He said, "Thank you, Mesopotamia." I was trying to get it is with the greatest humility that I accept this victory for us. We won today. And he goes on to say, "We all fall, but to get up and walk, run, and rise again is the purpose of life." End quote. And I want you to understand something here. He got elected, and pay attention to what he said. I'm going to go back. He said, "It is with the greatest humility that I accept this victory for us. We won today." And what does that tell you? When you run for office, you're not running for yourself. You're not running to be selfish. You're running to serve people. That's what you do. And that's what he expressed there. And here's another thing. Here's a quick story. This is the last thing I'll do. I know I said two, but I add this one. I end with this one. According to the UnionJournal.com, Morris Brown College application for accreditation approved. And this article is by Carlos Christian. I'm going to tell you this. When I lived in Georgia, I remember, if this is coming back to me, when I lived in Georgia, I remember hearing that this school, I remember they talking inside the school. The professor was an attorney, and he talked about that the school was going to lose their accreditation. And at that time, I didn't know what Morris Brown was, and I heard it. And so, they went on to lose their accreditation. But here's the deal. This, now they will be gaining their accreditation. And it has been approved. And this is according to Dr. Kevin James. He said, "This is history in the making. Morris Brown intends to become the first HBCU to earn its accreditation back 20 years after losing it. When Morris Brown achieves candidacy status, hopefully by April 2021, it will give the college all the rights of a fully accredited college, which allows students to receive federal financial aid. Additionally, student degrees will be recognized by other schools and other employers." This is monumental, right? The little bit that I know, monumental. There's so much history with this school that's going on that this is awesome. Shout out to Morris Brown, putting back, another great HBCU. I believe this college is named after a black man, if I'm not mistaken. And shit, I'm sold right there. You know what I mean? So it's awesome to hear. These are good things. And remember, y'all, guess what? We got to operate as one, right? We got to operate as one. So when one good thing happened for black people, we all cheer. When something bad is happening to black people, we all step up. You understand? So it's important when these things happen because we get to uplift each other. You understand? We get to admire each other. It's just, these are the important things in life. And I hope I brought you a great episode. I appreciate you listening. Wear your mask. Wear your mask. Wash your hands. Keep your 6 feet distance. I appreciate you listening to Politics on My Mind. Thank you. I appreciate you. Hip Hop Generation, we out.
I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job, is to spark somebody else watching us.